Hello, Express Entry Law Facebook group members and all of my YouTube followers on the Canadian Immigration Institute. I am Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher. I'm so excited to have another EE Live Q&A for all of you. So I'm going to wait a couple seconds as we see, as the live viewers connect here with our beautiful, well, it's a beautiful day here in Canada, and in particular Lethbridge, Alberta, where I practice in the law firm of Stringham LLP. But we'll wait a few seconds as people jump on here to this live Q&A. So it's a little bit different than anything else you can see out there. You know, I've done a little bit of searching to see if anyone's doing anything quite like this on YouTube, and I don't think so. So this is live, folks. This is off the cuff. This is not prepared. As you can see, clearly the production value is a little bit lower than maybe some of those other fancier versions. But this is me, Canadian immigration lawyer Mark Holthe, answering your questions about express entry. So T, we've got T here who's joined us, and I've got a good thumbs up. Guys, let me know where you're tuning in from. I love to hear all over the world because let's face it, it's noon here, a perfect day. I've got a little bit of a break in my daily routine here at my office with Stringham LLP, and noon was really the best time. So I'm essentially doing this for all of you guys instead of eating my lunch. But no problem. I love doing it. All right. So a couple things I want to do in terms of housekeeping, as we call it. As always, folks, this EE Live Q&A is sponsored by the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself. And while we're waiting for people to jump on, John, good to see you. I've got a thumbs up. Rodriguez, I've got Rodriguez here. Let me know, guys, where you're tuning in from. I love to see where you're listening in. Tina is Malaysia. Very cool. Awesome. And I'm already getting questions. Mark, your prediction for upcoming draws. I know it's difficult, but please. Crazy. Okay, what do we got today? We're over 450. The draw just happened today, December the 6th, and we're still above 450. I think it's going to come down in the new year, but folks, no one can predict. All right, we've got India. You bet. Thanks, you guys, for tuning in so late at night. I really appreciate you being here. Okay, Express Entry, the complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself, is the sponsor. And I'm going to jump on just here for one quick second, and I'm going to show all of you great listeners what this thing is. So I'll have a link in the description of the video, both on the Facebook feed as well as within YouTube. And you can go in here, you can check it out. The first few are previews. You can watch them and see what it's about. Essentially, welcome, what Express Entry is about. You can learn about it in these quick little videos. But this is a series of lessons. Hey, I'm a teacher, so I wanted to set it up in a nice, easy way for everybody to get exactly what they need. And you only need to watch the videos that apply to you. And it goes everything from the very beginning to submit your Express Entry profile, completing everything, each section whether you are an individual applicant or whether you're married, and all the way through every section within the profile. And the reality is it doesn't stop there. I even have an entire section for once you receive your ITA. So it is a complete step-by-step walkthrough of the whole process with a live file, and it shows you exactly what you need to do, points out tips and strategies where you need to be aware of problem areas that people experience, all the way through the document checklist, all the documents that are required, which really give a lot of people challenges, and then a ton of frequently asked questions. And many people are asking me, questions that I have over and over and over again. Well, they're all here, folks, and I've tried to break them all down for you. So there's just a ton of information. It's all been created really to give all of you guys access to my knowledge at a far lower price than you would if you had to hire me directly. And so that's what the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide is. I'm super excited about it. I'm super proud of it. And I've got a number of testimonials you can see on the YouTube page. You can also see on the Facebook page with people who use it. And whether you subscribe for 1 month only or whether you purchase a lifetime access, I know that it helps people. And that's basically why I created it. All right, let's push this one off. Thank you very much. And I want to just jump back here and see where everybody is. With this program I've got, the feed, I can scroll back down and then I can see where everybody's listening from. So we've got Nigeria, Dhaka, Pakistan. Awesome. Fantastic. So we've got people from all over. All right. At the beginning of every one of these EE Live Q&As, for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, if you want to have your question considered on this live questionnaire, this live broadcast, all you need to do is send me an email right here to mholthy@stringham.ca and put EE Live Q&A in the subject line. So when you do that, then it queues it up so I know. Because, guys, I get a ton of emails every day. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails every day. And if your question doesn't have EE Live Q&A in it right there, then guess what happens? I push it over to my legal assistant, Charlene, who then sends you an inquiry as to whether you want to set up a consultation with me. And I get tons of people asking questions. All right. So I'm already getting lots of interaction with the live people. Mohammed says, Mark, what about your knee now? Yes. The reason we didn't do the EE Live Q&A yesterday, Tuesday, December the 5th, which is always what we're going to do, noon on Tuesdays, I had to go to see my specialist about my knee. I've got a torn meniscus. And if any of you are kind of in your 40s and you've had this issue where I've played sports all my life, so my knees are finally getting tired. I went to see my specialist and he said, you're going to need surgery. And I finally relented. And I said, okay. And then he said, but it's going to be a few months because I have to go in and get back surgery for myself. So you're not going to get in until May or June. So I'm looking at another 6 months. But hey, who cares? I'm riding my bike every day to work. I wish you could see it. You probably can't see it. Maybe if those vehicles weren't there back here in my office, and that back corner is where I park my bike. It was minus 6 degrees Celsius this morning. There's no snow, so you can see it's dry out there. And so as long as it's dry, I can ride. Because I've got a pretty steep hill that I have to go down and climb up through the river valley that splits the two sides of Lethbridge. If you go to Google Maps, you can see. And so when I'm riding, as long as it's dry, I can deal with it. And it was a little cold this morning, but that's okay. I was able to survive. So surgery's coming up, but the appointment went well, and I understand it's pretty straightforward. He'll clean a few things out, and hopefully it'll help to make it a little bit less painful when I'm trying to continue playing volleyball and those things that I do with my kids and as I coach with one of the high schools here in Lethbridge. All right, awesome. Lots of people are throwing out comments left and right, but I'm going to reward those of you who send them in first. So I may not get to all of the live ones, but the people who send them in first, I am going to address those first, and then I'll get to your questions because I really appreciate you guys who've taken the time to come in, and so I'm going to do all I can to get to your questions. And in fact, I've actually limited these email ones to just 3. But they're emails that cover some topics that are a little bit more substantive, a little bit more meatier, I guess, if you will. All right. So the first question here, this comes from Hamad, I think. Okay, I know it's Hamad. Well, I think it's Hamad. He didn't put a name on here, but his email address starts with Hamad, so we'll go with that. He says, "Hi, I'm asking about the procedure of processing an application for permanent residence with regard to background checks." Okay, this is a new one. We haven't talked about this one before. We see in some blogs that when you open your GC key, you will see different stages, and he means his express entry profile. You can see after you've filed your electronic application for permanent residence, it reflects the different stages of your application. He says, example not applicable, we're processing your background check. We will send you a message if we need more information. Most of them are referring to them as NA1, IP1, NA2, IP2. Great. Okay. He said, how far that is true? What is background check? What IRCC interesting to know about an applicant when conducting a background check? So this is an awesome question. This is a great one. No one has asked me that before. What is a background check? What is IRCC actually looking for? Why do they care? Why are they doing this? Well, I think for most of you, you realize it has something to do with security, or Criminality or things like that. But you know what? Let me show you the source, because that's what I do. I'm not like one of those other YouTubers or immigration consultants out there or immigration lawyers like I am, who gives you answers but no real source for them, because they don't want you to go in and look at it yourself. They want to conceal it and keep it aside so that it looks like they are so knowledgeable. Well, guys, you've seen me and I know my stuff, but I'm not going to pretend like I am the only source of information for you. The purpose of this is to help you guys figure it out on your own if you want, and if you need a little bit of extra help, I've created this to help you. And if you decide, hey, Mark, I'd actually like a little bit of a consultation because the question I have is very specific to my situation, then guess what, folks? We go right here, and you can go to this link on my firm website. You can book a paid consultation with me or my immigration consultant, Bill Young, one of us, and we're the ones that answer the questions for you. So you can do that, or if you are in a position where you just want peace of mind, you can hire me. But all of that is secondary. The purpose of this is to help you guys and to give you actually useful information that will benefit you. So let's dive in. What the heck is this security stuff? And as I'm pulling this up, I find it quite interesting. There was a little bit of a dialogue back and forth on the Express Entry Law Facebook group about immigration officers infiltrating these private Facebook groups and watching what people are doing, and be careful what you disclose. And I had to kill myself laughing. It was hilarious. This conspiracy theory. I would love nothing more than to have the actual express entry officers coming on, seeing the concerns that you guys are expressing, seeing the questions that are often asked. Because in reality, if they paid closer attention to my private Express Entry Law Facebook group, they would see right away the real issues that people are having when they're trying to do it themselves. And they could then post better Q&As on the IRCC website, or in some cases, they'd be able to see all of the crazy world of fraud that's out there. In other words, people are constantly providing these job offer letters with these fancy Canadian flag watermarks that appear to be offering this person their golden ticket to Canada, when in reality it's just fake. And some of them are really good, but you can see most of them are pretty cheap. There's not a lot of sophistication. You can tell right away they're fake. But if you're in a different country, you don't know what an official document looks like in Canada. So anyways, lots of people are doing that. Okay, let's jump in and let's take a look at what this security stuff is all about. And guess where I'm going to take you? You guys are going to see the source right here. I'm going to blow it up. And this right here, I think I jumped a little bit ahead. I'm going to have to flip ahead. There are sections right here on inadmissibility. And this is really what the officers are looking at. So you'll remember within Express Entry, you're required to provide police clearances for every place you've lived, as well as a travel history of the places that you visited. And you're also required to provide an immigration medical. So on the surface, those are the main areas that they're looking at. But let's take an actual look at the ways in which you can see something that would constitute inadmissibility within the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. And that's where we're at right here, Section 33 of the Act. And you can see here, and I'm not going to waste a lot of time because I want to get to some other questions, but this is the source. This is what they're looking at. So security. Okay, so they're inadmissible on security grounds if they've engaged in any of these crazy activities, right? Espionage, subversion of force to any government, terrorism, that they're a danger to the security of Canada. And I want you guys who are watching this, I'm actually going to show you something here. I'm going to pull it up because you need to listen to it. It's really cool. Peter Edelman is an awesome lawyer out in Vancouver, and he specializes in this kind of stuff. I'm going to type in here immigration, Canadian Immigration Podcast, and you guys can see this. That takes me to the iTunes. I don't want that. I want Peter Edelman. Let's see if we can find it. Okay, here we go. Cross my fingers. That took me to YouTube. See, guys, this is not any kind of a polished kind of thing. You guys have to realize that I am just a one-man show here, and so my technical team is somewhat limited. Okay, let's go here. This is the one. This is my Canadian Immigration Podcast. And as you can see here, one of the last ones I did was how to score high on the Ielts exam with Chris Enders, my exclusively endorsed, I guess is the word I'm looking for, Ielts instructor. Okay, I'm going to search for Peter here, and I'm going to pull this up. Okay, Peter Rakai. Here we go. This is the one that if you want to know all the craziness that goes on when it comes to security grounds, terrorists, spies, dangerous from people, keeping dangerous people out of Canada. This is an awesome podcast, and Peter did a fantastic job. And so I'd encourage you guys to all take a look at that. Okay? So that's that. But now back to the act. So these are the things. Acts of violence that would endanger the lives of Canadian citizens. A member of an organization like that that will engage in all of these kind of things above. So these are some of the things. So this is, you can be inadmissible for security. So they're looking at your background, trying to see if you are, for instance, a member or have been associated with members of terrorist organizations or any kind of group that would potentially be considered a threat to Canada. Have you been involved in committing or international rights violations? And so that's another thing, okay? But the most common is really the criminality. So there's two types, serious criminality and regular criminality. Either of them will make you or can make you inadmissible to Canada, and you can be found to be inadmissible if it was convicted in Canada here, or an offense outside of Canada that if committed inside Canada would be considered essentially a crime. So your traditional criminality, that will show up on your police clearances, or your lack of a clearance. It'll be your actual, your listed record on your police report. Okay? And then we go to the next page here and we can see what else. If you're part of organized criminality, all right? Are you part of some kind of corruption within your city, organized crime? And then those are all of the security kind of stuff. But then remember our immigration medical, right? So you have to do that. Well, people can be found inadmissible for health grounds. And if it is, and you can see here, if their health condition is likely to be a danger to public health or to public safety, so that's if you have a communicable disease or something that's going to cause a danger that way, or might reasonably be expected to cause excessive demand on health or social services. So that's another way with these background checks, what they're looking for, okay, especially you express entry people. If you're sponsoring a spouse, then health grounds, you're exempted from being inadmissible for health grounds. And then we'll skip through financial, because financial reasons are usually with respect to people who are destitute or cannot show that they're able to support themselves well in Canada. But here we go, misrep. Okay, this is where they can find you inadmissible if you've misrepresented. So in the course of your application, they determine that maybe you submitted a previous one that was inconsistent, or you had actually lied. And so this is important for you guys to understand that inadmissibility for misrep can be for directly or indirectly misrepresenting or withholding material facts. And you can see how technical this is, that could induce an error in the administration of this act, which basically, in layman's terms, means that you've done something or you've said something or failed to say something you should have that got you an approval, for example, when you really shouldn't have got approved. Okay? And we see this happen all the time. And then we look at the consequences, all right? So what happens if you do that? Well, if you're found inadmissible for misrepresentation, then you're going to be out of luck for 5 years. And then after that, it doesn't apply unless the minister is satisfied that the facts of the case justify the inadmissibility. So, all right, it's all good. This is basically what we're looking at, folks. And so these are the things that the government is going through and they're checking for. And obviously, if they have some kind of a watch list or something and your name appears on it, they're going to do more investigation. If there is, however, for example, someone who lives in Canada, you'll see that sometimes they don't ask you to get an RCMP or a local Canadian police check. And the reason for that is they do a simple little name search and your name doesn't pop up anywhere. But if it does, then that's often where they'll kick you back and ask you to get your actual fingerprints. So there you go. Background declarations. It can take different amounts of time depending on the country that you come from. Some countries there's a higher incident or rate of activities in that country that would be deemed security threats to Canada, and so there might be more searches that take place in some countries over others. But anyways, that's how that works. And Hamad, thank you for asking that question. It was a great question. All right, next question comes from Saramdas. And the question is, my employer, we get this one all the time, but I want to touch on it anyways. My employer refused to provide a job reference letter as they do not share roles and responsibilities as per the company policy. So I'm assuming it's one of these big IT companies. I have offer letter, pay slips, relieving letter. What can I do in this case? All right. So, Saramdas, let's take a look once again. Let's dive right in, back to the source. I'm going to open up my my browser here, and this time I'm going to go to the lovely site called the Completeness Check. I do Completeness Check CIC, and that takes me to, let's see if I can find it. Oh, I'm going to add an EE in there. That will help to find it. Okay, there we go. So now I can find it right here. And you'll see that it's changed a little bit from past videos if you've seen it. Before, there used to be nice little drop downs where all of this information was contained in nice little compressed headings, and you could search through it faster, but now you can't. So you've got to scroll through this, and I don't know why they changed it. IRCC, immigration officers, anyone watching this, why did you guys change it? It was so much easier to navigate before, but that's okay. So we're going to go down here, and this is the policy that the officers follow when they're trying to determine if your document is going to be good enough. So let's scroll down here. Let's see if we can find it. What I'm looking for is proof of work experience. Okay, we're going to go back up. I probably skipped through it. Medical, incomplete. Okay, so we're going to just do it the good way here. Work. There we go. Bam. I should have done that. I love the search feature on these web browsers. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to close that. Get rid of this. So here's proof of work experience. So right off the bat, any reference letter must meet must meet these requirements. So you can see here, it's mandatory for each work experience declared. That means that you don't have to list every single work experience that you've ever done in your life. You don't. Only the ones that you declare in your work history section. Okay, so the reference letter or experience letter from the employer, obviously it needs to be official. And you can see everything here. It must contain everything, your supervisors. I'm going to blow this up so you guys can see it easier. Those that are looking on your handhelds. Okay, I wonder if I can make it even bigger. Let's see. Oh, that's pretty big. Oh yeah, no one's complaining now about seeing this. Okay, so official document contained your name, company's name, address, the name and title and signature of the immediate supervisor or personnel officer. That means this can be pretty broad. It's just someone who can actually provide the information and confirm that it is true. So what's the information? So let's take a look here. It should indicate all positions held while at the company and must include the following details. And this is where it comes down to your question, Saramdas. What can you do if you can't get a reference letter that contains all this because they won't give you, for example, the responsibilities? They won't list your job title. And so what do? Well, you do whatever you can to provide IRCC with alternative, independently corroborated documentation to show exactly each one of these elements that you need to prove. Okay, and all of these relate back to what constitutes skilled work experience. You have to be paid. You have to work a minimum of 30 hours a week if you full time, continuously for 1 year in a skilled occupation. And so that's why all of these things are specifically listed. So if we look at Saramdas here, he says that I have the offer letter, I've got pay slips. Okay, great. That covers off the wage, right? Because you have to list the salary plus the benefits. He also has the relieving letter. Okay, well, it's going to indicate the actual job that he was performing. Hopefully, the offer letter maybe had some duties in it as well. But ultimately, it's pretty simple, Saramdas. you have to do all you can to satisfy all of these things. And they don't like just basic attestation letters from individuals saying, I worked in this position, here's my sworn statement. They don't like that. So you need to do whatever you can to get that information through whatever source might be available to you. If you have tax filings, if you don't have pay stubs, you can use your tax filings. Do you have job descriptions that are already built in and publicly available within the company for your job? Can you produce those? Have you had to go to a different country and had to go through an immigration process for that other country, and the company needed to provide a letter to support that other visa application, for example? Sometimes those documents will have they're very good and reliable for the purposes of meeting this requirement. But at the end of the day, if you can't meet this perfectly, then let's face it, there's a risk that an officer may not think what you've provided is sufficient. So you do all you can to try to find evidence and ways to provide or prove this type of information. Okay? And it all comes down to creativity. And when it comes to deciding what to include and what not to include, it's definitely not something we can answer in an EE Live Q&A. It all depends on your particular situation, your circumstances, your job, exactly what you already have obtained, who you've worked for that might be willing to help out. So you guys get it. That's kind of how it works. And that's usually where people contact me for paid consultations to try and sort it out. All right? Okay, last question actually relates very closely to the first. And it is from Olivia. And Olivia says, how can self-employed people prove their work experience? What documents should they submit if they get an invitation to apply? So, Olivia, we're going to jump right back here, back to this lovely website, and then we're just going to look at the next paragraph. So right here, you'll see if the applicant right here is self-employed, then what you need to provide, one, is that the company or the business actually exists. So articles of incorporation or other evidence of business ownership. So for example, if you're a doctor and you work on a contract basis, then you're probably going to have a professional corporation or some business that you operate through. Okay? Then you need to provide evidence of self-employment income. Well, how do your clients pay you? Do you issue them invoices? Do you give them receipts that describe the services that you've provided? Do you have confirmation of them paying you? And so those bills that you issue to your clients and the receipts that come back showing payment, well, obviously, if you're a dentist and you can provide that you have a registration with the dental authority, then obviously you're not going to have that certificate unless you're fully qualified to be a dentist. And so that type of registration, professional certification, coupled with proof that you actually have a business that you're operating through, letters from clients stating, yes, I've used their services. And I would get letters from clients that cover the entire period in which you want to claim work experience. So if you need it for 3 years is the max that you can get points for the comprehensive ranking system points. If you already meet the minimum entry criteria through the Federal Skilled Worker Program with only 3 years work experience, then don't waste your time getting any more, because that's only 3 years or more is what maxes you out within the comprehensive ranking system when they rank you against everyone else. If you have 4 years of foreign work experience, it doesn't add any more than 3. So for you, you're going to want to get those confirmations from your clients. So evidence that you've billed them and they've paid you. Your bank account statement showing that money's going in and out. You can use whatever you want to do. Heck, you could even throw in a picture of your office or advertisements that you've posted in local papers. It's as creative as you can possibly be. Whatever level you think you need to go to, that's what I do. And my job as an immigration lawyer is to go out of my way to provide as much evidence as possible so that an officer really has virtually no room for refusing. You've given them everything that they need to make that decision that says, yes, I accept your work experience. Okay? And you can see here, documentation from third-party individuals indicating the service provided along with payment details. Okay? That's exactly what we're talking about. It's great. And this is improved. These instructions have improved more and more by IRCC, so I commend them for trying to provide as much information as possible to people without doing all the work for them, I guess, essentially. And you can see right here, this is the important part, okay? Self-declared main duties or affidavits are not acceptable proof of self-employment work experience. So, and obviously if you worked in Canada and you're self-employed, you're going to have your CRA Canada revenue tax information. Okay, so there you go. And voila. Awesome, 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 awesome. We are complete. Now, because I whipped through this pretty quick, we've got a lot of time to answer the listener questions. So when I post this on YouTube, I'm going to just post it as those first three that I talked about. Reference letters, what happens when you can't get a perfect one? What options do you have? What do you do if you're self-employed? And what the heck are background checks? And what do they actually look into? Okay, so now it is time for all of you awesome people to repost your comments. And Bella says, Bella, my favorite client in the whole world. She says, and that's why people should hire you. Well, great, Bella. You've experienced the positive results of having very difficult situations, and fortunately, we were able to resolve it. And now you and your family are all permanent residents, so that is fantastic. Okay, I am ready for you guys to repost your questions right now. I know that everybody's frantically retyping them again or copying and pasting them. So here they come. Okay. Lovej says, Mark, if I have declined refugee from Canada in 2012, will this affect my eligibility for express entry? Yes. Depending upon the circumstances, if you're a failed refugee claimant, then yes, it can absolutely, and you may need what we call an ARC, an authorization to return to Canada, if you are a failed refugee claimant. So yes, but understand that there's a lot of variables to that. It depends on the timing. It depends on everything else, what actually happened. And so in those cases, I highly recommend that you reach out to me and set up a paid consult, and we can go over everything. But yeah, it can definitely impact negatively. And that's one of the reasons why I strongly encourage people who arrive in Canada as visitors to not just jump and claim refugee status. Yes, if you come, you claim refugee status, you can get a work permit, it's all bliss, you can work wherever you want. Well, once you're refused, your conditional deportation order actually becomes effective, and you are removed from Canada, and you have to suffer through the stigma of not being able to just come back, even if the circumstances change such that you have a great job offer or you qualify for express entry. So I never encourage people to do that. Okay, Faizan says, Mark, why is score getting higher and the candidate selected is coming down? So would it increase in 2018? The reality is the government has certain quotas. And to a large extent, it depends on the number of people that are actually submitting their profiles into the pool. And if the candidates are higher, they're reaching higher comprehensive ranking system points, then the draw total is naturally going to be higher. If the government was to start kicking out draws really quickly, for example, every week, then we would start to see the CRS total drop. But if it's every 2 or 3 weeks, like it's kind of been, it's naturally going to be higher because there's going to be more people with higher human capital that are reaching that level. And don't forget, it all changed in May when they instituted points for siblings in Canada, 15, as well as that 15 or 30 point threshold for additional points for speaking French. So ultimately in 2018, I expect that definitely it is going to start to come down. But at this stage, it's always a guess. All right, scroll down here. Bibbin says, hey, Mark, hi. Mercy gives me a thumbs up. Hi, Mercy. All right. Dimitri says, do I need to explain gaps in employment history? In the work experience part, when you're submitting your profile, or your EAPR, when you get your ITA, your invitation to apply, and you're applying for you're submitting your electronic application for permanent residence, within the work history section, you only need to list the work history that you actually want to claim comprehensive ranking system points for. However, in your personal history, no gaps. You must list every single activity for the past 10 years, and you can't leave gaps. Okay? Sometimes you'll be doing more than one thing at a time. Well, in those circumstances, then you're just going to list each of those activities, even if they tend to overlap. Okay? So yeah, you definitely don't want to leave any gaps. Okay, any views on the recent draw? Yes. So Renju identified 452, which is quite high. It's been down to 430s. 452 was the most recent draw. So that kind of dovetails into the other comment that I answered. Okay. Deval says, hi, Mark from Kuwait. What if my university is not listed in WES? Okay, this is one of those issues that is really, really complicated. Ultimately, there was a question asked where a person had received an equivalency, but their school was not listed. It wasn't listed within WES. And I honestly couldn't answer that question. When it comes to educational credential agencies and the evaluation process, it's not something that I have expertise in. Traditionally, I don't provide those for my clients. My clients go and get those themselves. And the ultimate equivalency, it happens with that organization, whether it's WES or whoever it is. But if one, I have heard that in some cases, if WES doesn't equate it, sometimes another one, ICAS or one of the other educational credential assessment agencies will. So you just have to try. And whatever they kick back, that is the authority. There is no room to argue. If you cannot get an ECA for your foreign educational credential, IRCC does not care. So any officers who are watching this, or any of the high folks up there within NHQ, they will confirm they could care less if your school burned down and you didn't have any records. If your school is not recognized by WES, even though you spent thousands of dollars and worked hard to get your education and it's well respected in your community, if WES doesn't think it is, you're out of luck. So harsh reality, guys, really harsh. Okay, let's see. Lavage says, my wife is in Canada. Can she sponsor me? Yes, she can. But there are additional processes that you may need to go through. So if you want to set up a consult, we can work through those. Okay, Mercy. Mark, please, what happens if I apply without my husband accompanying me? Is there a way he can join me and my son later after I must have gotten my PPR? You got to watch, Mercy, you got to watch my past EE Live Q&As. Go to the YouTube channel. It's easier to find it there. And search for the ones. I always try to break down all the topics that I talk about. But this is a big one that I've already addressed in past EE Live Q&As. Essentially, you can always go forward listing your family as non-accompanying. And there's a ton of reasons why you would do it. You never want to do it solely for the purposes of trying to cheat the comprehensive ranking system. But people have a lot of reasons why their spouse isn't going to be coming right away. In many cases, you're very stable in your home country. Express entry happens really fast, and you get an approval, and then you have to come and land. Well, the reality is your spouse may not be ready to come. And maybe you want to go there, get settled, find a job, and then bring your family over. Maybe you have lots of support network. Maybe you have a new baby, which has happened with one of my clients. And so your spouse decides that they want to stay back where their mother can care for them and the baby and help support them while you're working hard to get established in Canada. So there's a ton of reasons to do it, and it's totally legitimate. It's totally fine. Once you land, you can definitely sponsor them, but make sure that they're disclosed. And I'll share a really sad story with all of you guys that are watching live here. So one of my clients, when I was on holidays at Disney, she was sponsored as a spouse. And this is where I will very clearly explain that no one is perfect and we make mistakes too. I met with her back in September and it did not look like the spousal was going to go through. And in fact, her husband had been denied sponsorship. He wasn't approved because he had some outstanding support payments that appeared to show up to another spouse, and those child support payments or just support to a former spouse, those payments, if a sponsor's in arrears, they can't sponsor. They're ineligible. And so he didn't even realize that it showed that he was behind. And I'm not even sure to this day if he was. But anyways, IRCC said, no, you are ineligible. And so they gave us the option of continuing forward, and the reality was there was no reason to withdraw it. You might as well just let it play forward. And I talked with the couple, and there was no hope. So despite this couple having this one mother, they were both a second marriage. The mother was from the Philippines, or I should say the spouse, the applicant was from the Philippines, and she had 3 children in the Philippines. She has 3 children. Well, as circumstances happened, an officer in Vancouver was so kind and was willing to look at the reality of the situation, and allow the application to go forward, which is extremely, extremely rare. I was shocked. And this all kind of happened while I was away on holidays with my family. Well, back in September, this client had talked to me about the anguish she was going through because her 17-year-old daughter had become pregnant and had a child that was born in September. And so, guess what happens? That child of a dependent is also a dependent. Well, in my client's haste to get landed, we got the landing instructions, and once again, because I was away, I wasn't watching things carefully. Well, she went up, and in fairness, she should have said something, but the officer didn't say anything about, do you have any extra dependents? But the onus is still on you, so there's no mercy. So she didn't say anything about this other child, and she completed her landing. And now, guess what? Now, because that child was not examined, Section 117.9D of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Regulations applies. And it sucks. And so now we have to go through the process of humanitarian compassion applications, making our pitch to the visa office. And I even tried to reach out to the local office and see if there's anything that they could do. But there's freaking no mercy. And I'll tell you, I understand they have a job to do, but I think the policy is stupid. It's ridiculous. Someone innocently makes a mistake, especially in these circumstances. A 17-year-old daughter has a baby, and of course the father is nowhere to be found, right? And so what? Now you're going to punish the grandmother because they forgot to say something. Well, yes, that's the way the law is written. So tough luck, suck it up. It's too bad. That's immigration's standpoint. And I'll tell you, if any officers are listening and they say, hey, Mark, there's something and we will show some compassion and maybe there's something that we can do, that would be awesome. But at the end of the day, it's on me. I should have realized. I should have brought it up to her. I should have reminded her. And so I'm going to do everything in my power, and it will happen. The baby will get here. It's just now we have to go through the whole process of H&Cs, and if even necessary, a federal court application, because I'll challenge the officers on not bringing it up. They've got their own internal protocols about asking the questions. And I know if they would have asked the question, my client would have said, yeah, I have an extra granddaughter that was just born, who's only a couple months old. But anyways, that's a separate fight, and as a former immigration officer, I totally respect what the officers are doing. It is not easy. It is tough. But the reality is there needs to be some break, some leeway, especially when we contacted them just a couple days later when I realized the mistake that had happened. No mercy. Sorry, can't help you. All right. I'll let it be at that because, the officers have to apply the law that they're given. But I think the law is freaking stupid. So, Minister Houston, if you're hearing this or one of your policy advisors in Ottawa, I think the bar is ridiculous and idiotic. Okay, done. There you go. There's my opinion. And rarely do I rant, but there's my rant. Woo! All right, let's move on here. Okay, so in the course of not listing your spouse as non-accompanying, you better make sure every single one is medically and criminally examined. So get your medicals, get your police clearances, get them done. Essential. Okay, Jana, how to increase overall points despite of higher Ielts score. My education and experience is already on maximum. What else should I do? Go for it to increase the points. Well, Sana, the reality is I always tell people English, okay? And if it's English, then and you're struggling and you need a little bit to increase your English even more, then contact Chris Enders with the Canadian Mosaic Language School in Edmonton. He's awesome. And I'll provide a little link in the show notes just for him to plug him. And I plug him because he's awesome. Like, I love the way he addresses things. I love the way he approaches it as he is a coach and you're an athlete, because it's not just a matter of getting some stupid book. And I see a lot of the other immigration lawyers who are professing all these other supports for IELTS. Well, who cares about a book? A book ain't going to help you. You need someone to actually speak to you and to teach you and to converse with you and help you train and practice and practice. That's why it's so much easier when people actually become immersed in the country. They go somewhere where they can only speak English and they stop speaking their their native language. If you want to increase your English scores, then stop speaking your native language and only speak English. Okay? When I went to Portugal on my mission as a Mormon missionary, I spent 2 months in the Missionary Training Center in Proval. And one of the things that they had was the Speak Your Language program. So what you did was you used the words that you knew in the other language, and then you filled in with your current language. So if I was speaking Portuguese, I'd say, Olá, my name a mark. That's all I knew, right? And so you just keep filling it in gradually, and then, and it helps you learn the language faster. But you speak it, right? So anyways, there's my rant on language training. All right, so that's what you do. But other than that, it's hard because your age, I assume, Sana, if your score is lower, that you're maybe a little bit older, and that's where you lose the points. And so how do you claim those back? It's really tough. If you say, okay, I'm going to get another year of education so I can get 2 or more degrees, well, if you take a 1-year diploma, well, that's 1 year of age that you're also dropping. So it's this balancing act, right? Your age goes down, it continues to drop, and it takes time to get the education up. And so you're losing points while you're gaining them. And it's just, you have to do the math. But English number 1, if by some miracle you actually can get a genuine job offer, then of course that's going to help. But for many people, I will also tell them to consider trying to get a study permit and coming to Canada to study. Because if you do that, you can get extra points not only for obtaining a Canadian educational credential, but for getting a postgrad work permit and then working and getting Canadian work experience. And it also can give you a better chance of actually getting that job offer. So if you're in Canada, job offers are entirely possible because you're often working for them already on an open work permit. And then, then they're willing to go and get an LMIA because they love you. But for anyone that's outside of the country, extremely rare. All right, extremely rare. I'd get a drink of water, but I already drank it all, so that ain't happening. Okay, bear with me. Okay, great question, Sana. All right, how are we doing for time? 46 minutes. Okay, Mohammed says, Mark, I'm an ACCA member, which automatically means I have 3 years experience. My question is, as an ACCA member, should I consider myself equal to master's degree for express entry? Well, hey, that's pretty easy. You have to get your credentials assessed. And so if you're trying to equate yourself to whatever the credential is, master's, PhD, you submit it to the WES or to one of the other educational credential assessment agencies, and then they're going to tell you what it is. So their decision is final, so it doesn't matter. It's whatever they say. Okay, Nitin says, I breached the law in UK. Am I eligible for EE as police clearance dependent of main applicant? Is it a crime? Okay. I'm not sure which law you broke. It all depends on the actual provision in the foreign country and what it would equate to under the Canadian Criminal Code or an Act of Parliament within Canada. So Nitin, that's definitely way above the level of our the comment section here with this live Q&A. So send me an email or log in. Like I said before here, you can go to this site right here. And that will take you specifically to the consult page where you can book a paid consult with me. I wish I could enlarge this, but I can't really. I guess you guys will have to zoom in on your screen if you can. But it's just www.stringham.ca/immigration-mark-holthy. All right. So that is how you can reach out to me. All right, let's jump back here. Next question. Okay, we've got Lavage. He's like getting these comments in there. Good for you. Hey, Mark, thanks for answering one question. Now my wife is a student in BC. Can she sponsor me even though I had declined refugee status? Is she a Canadian citizen or permanent resident? If she's both of those, she can sponsor you. There is no minimum income level, but like I said, you need to contact me, Lavage. And then we can sort it out. Okay. I love these names. Oh my goodness. Okay. Sweet to Cyril's Artisan Glacier. Okay. I'm assuming that's the name of your company or something. Hi, Mark. I'm not married yet, but my future wife will come with me to Canada. Very cool. Awesome. When should I include the certificate of marriage, before ITA or after? Or even after submitting document and waiting for PR? Thanks. Okay, you need to disclose your wife when she is a wife. So when you get married, that's when you identify her within the application at whatever stage you're at. If you get married, then absolutely, even if it's the day before you land as a permanent resident, full stop. Okay? You get married at any stage up into when you land as a permanent resident, you must must 100% get them examined medically, police clearance, whatever, whether they're accompanying you or not. Okay. Another thing you have to take into consideration, are they common law? Because you may not have married them yet, but under the Immigration Act, you may be determined to be in a common law relationship if you're living together for at least 1 month. 1 month. Wow. 1 year. So if you've been living together as a couple for 1 year, then it's possible you could be seen as being common law. And some people have messed up and had problems with that because they don't realize, and then IRCC bars them, just like that nasty Section 117.9D of the regulations that makes me grit my teeth and snap my braces. Oh, I'm just so upset. Like, it's so freaking stupid. All right, okay, fine. It is. Okay, let it go, Mark. Let it go. The reality is you must always disclose them if they're common law or married. Okay, so all the way up to the time in which you get PR, if you haven't been living together, you're not common law, and you're not getting married until after you land, then you don't need to worry about it. Sponsor them once you get married after you're a permanent resident. Okay? All right, moving on. Prabhat says, hello, Mark. I'm planning to do my PhD from Montreal Polytechnic. Very cool. I'm eligible for EE. Can I come to Canada in other than Quebec province and then move to Quebec later, like 2 to 3 years? Can I do it? How long does an Express Entry candidate, I'm assuming is what's asked here, have to wait before going to Quebec, or they are never allowed to go to Quebec? Okay. Under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada, our charter is freedom of mobility. So people have the ability to go. When you're applying through Express Entry, it's not like through a PNP. And so just to reiterate with everyone, I am not an advocate in any way of any of you just using a province to get to Canada and then never even really intending to stay there, but then going immediately to Toronto or Vancouver or Montreal. I don't agree with that. I believe it is completely an abuse of the process. And so that's a whole different discussion than what Prabhat is asking. Prabhat is recognizing that Quebec doesn't participate in Express Entry. At least at this stage they don't. And so you're not going to list Quebec as your destination within a Canadian experience class. If you do, guaranteed refusal. Your destination is definitely going to be one of the other provinces. But the reality is, if you land in any province as Express Entry, well, you're free to move anywhere you want, right? You're free to go anywhere you want. You don't have or owe anything to any province. You have the ability to move. So obviously, if you say you're going to go to Toronto, then go to Toronto and test it out. If it doesn't look like it's good, then you can go to Quebec. It doesn't matter, Prabhat. You're totally fine. But if you are a nominee under a provincial nominee program, then me as an immigration lawyer, whether it's just morally or ethically, I don't care. I will not support you if you're only going there to use that province and then leave. Because the whole purpose of it is to help you make that province a better place. And your skills and your ability are seen by that province as someone who can really help make a difference. Okay. Done with that. All right. Okay, Lavej says, thanks. Talk to you soon. Great. Deval says, thank you. You're very welcome for answering your question too. Okay, Eber. Now, one thing I will qualify. Any question that is specific. How do I qualify for immigration? Guys, I'm going to push you right here every single time. Pay the subscription fee, which is $97 US for a month access. Most people who are diligent can get in there, learn everything they need, and get out in a month. If you want to stay in longer, it's an automatic renewal process unless you opt out. So you can stay in as long as you want. But anyone who says, Mark, how do I qualify? Can you assess? I'll direct you to here. Or I'll tell you to book a paid consultation and I'll work it through with you. Okay, so I think that's what Eber is asking here. Which route can I take with 370 CRS points? No relatives, age 30, will complete masters. Yeah, that's a specific question related specifically to you. So it doesn't really have any applicability to anyone else. So those ones I charge for, or I recommend you purchase a subscription to the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide. All right, let's zip it through. Lots of thumbs, smiley faces. I love those. Okay, Dilshit says, I want to go to Canada. Please help me. Okay, there you go, sir. This is where I recommend, or book a consult with me and we can talk about the options. Okay, Syed says, hi, brother. Hey, bro, how's it going? Bella, you have such a great heart. Bella's awesome. I love reading the comments after I've said stuff because then they don't distract me when I'm in the middle of my rant. But anyways, okay, so we're going to skip through here. Okay, Rinkish says, after getting PR, can we sponsor parents for PR? Yes, you can. That's totally acceptable. You just need to meet the minimum income level, and then you're eligible to sponsor them. Remember, though, Canada is a lottery now. So probably less than 10% of the people who submit every year will receive an opportunity to actually file a sponsorship through IRCC. And there's only 10,000 a year, so it's a lottery, unfortunately. Joseph, hi Mark, God bless you for the wonderful job that you're doing. My question for today is, does your Express Entry step-by-step program provide detailed information regarding the settling funds if shown as a gift, and also the job references, medicals, and PCC requirements? All of that, my friend, is contained within my extensive Q&As. And so you'll notice that I go on here, I answer your questions, I spend a lot of time, and the reality is when you go into the course, at the bottom, and this is just a sample. This is just a sample that we took when we first set this up. But you can see here, I have a ton of Q&As that address all of the topics that that people ask. And so this is where all the Q&As are more detailed. And yeah, you can see all of these different things. Anyways, so the Q&A section is where all of those are contained. But the interesting thing is, as I'm actually completing, as I'm walking you through the submission of your EAPR, I actually talk about the documents right within that section of the video tutorial. And actually, I'll jump right back in here because it's important that you guys understand that this isn't just some crappy little product Mark threw together just to try and make some money, although I do hope it makes money for me. The reality is document checklists. And so I actually go through in these tutorials step by step how you upload the documents, the things, what you need to consider when you're doing it, tips and strategies for each section. So, and I refer back to that particular IRCC Completeness Check website very frequently. So, yeah, short answer, Joseph, is absolutely. And the beauty of it too is, if you go in there and you see that there's something missing that you think would really help everyone, you tell me, I answer your question, and I add it. So you just help to make the program better and better. But if you see there's something missing that you really like and should be included, then I'll answer your email, answer your question, and then I'll add it in for everybody else. Okay. Okay. Oh, illegal work. Nitin says he worked illegally. Crime, illegal. Technically speaking, unauthorized work does fit within the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, but that's something that we need to look at the actual provision, how you were charged, and that's where Nitin, when I'm looking at, just to reiterate for everybody, he was asking about whether it makes you inadmissible to Canada having worked illegally in another country. It really comes down to the actual provision, the law under which you were convicted, the elements of the offense, and how those elements, those particular components of what you needed to do to be guilty, whether it actually equates with Canadian, an act of Parliament, Canadian Criminal Code, or in this case, the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. Okay. Okay, Azad says, thanks for the awesome answers, watching from Saudi. Very cool. I love this. There's the answer. It's sweet ice rolls. Man, you got to tell me what those things are. I wonder if there's a picture. Oh, I can't zoom in. I can't zoom in on your comment. Sweet ice rolls. Very cool. And you're right. It's the name of the company. Anyways, thanks a lot for your response. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Okay. How can a foreign lawyer exercise his profession in Canada? Perla, that is a whole different discussion. And the law societies of Alberta each have a process for you to go through. But you have to meet their credentials. You have to go through a credential evaluation. Often foreign jurisdictions, especially civil law jurisdictions, because we're common law, will require you even to go back, and you may not even be able to challenge the exams. You may actually have to go back to law school. So it just depends. It's not easy, I know that much. Okay, Hassan says, hello Mark, is it important you must take the Ielts exam before you can partake in any of the Canadian immigration programs? For express entry, it's the starting point. You can't even get through the gate unless you write your Ielts. It is the minimum requirement to actually submit a profile. Okay, can I get your email for consultation related to immigration and future work? This email will get you wherever you need to go, folks. You send this to me, that goes directly to me. Now, I'm just about at the stage where I'm completely overwhelmed with the inquiries that come to this, but at this stage it's the easiest. And I'm actually in the process of looking at exploring different ways to help integrate a better funnel to make sure that we're responding more quickly to all of your inquiries. But this is the best way right here. Or if you want as well, you can very easily go back to my firm website and, just like I said before, punch it right in here. Okay, so www.stringham.ca/immigration dash, so that's not an underscore, it's a dash or a hyphen, Mark dash Holthe. All right, so that's how you can reach out to me and set up a consult. And I will direct you over to Charlene, who will take care of everything, and she will get you set up. And you and I will be talking, just like I have a consult coming up just this afternoon, and I had another one this morning. And so I do them all the time with you guys. Okay. Okay. Question: a person with self-employed background having experience. This is M. Kashif says, question: a person with self-employed background having experience in wholesale and import, how do they fit in express entry? Hey, it's the same situation, trying to prove your work experience. And just like we talked about with doctors or dentists, you have to be able to satisfy all of those things that we've previously covered. All right. Okay, guys. It's great to have you, and all join me. I'm going to have to shut her down here. We're at the 1 hour mark, and I've got to get back to work here. I'm super, super grateful for all of you out there who are in the group, who contribute, who help one another, who respond to comments, and who go out of their way to actually link back to the source of your information. So one thing that is less helpful is when people just start throwing out things. And it's one thing to have an opinion, but the danger, especially within Express Entry and all of the various Facebook groups out there, is that everybody's throwing out opinions like they're law. And that's why people run into problems. And I just had another person just recently contact me for a consult, and his application got refused because he just relied on someone else who had done the exact same thing that he did, who got their application approved. And you guys have seen this. People will come on and they'll say, here's the step-by-step guide. You follow this and you will get an approval. And I almost instantly delete those. And part of the reason is because just because it worked for one person does not mean it's going to work for someone else. You could have had an officer who was more flexible, who was willing to accept some other piece of information, but another officer may not. And so it might have had to do something with your unique position or your background that allowed an officer to be a little bit more flexible, where someone else who comes from a different background, or maybe even a different country, is assessed differently. And so I appreciate everybody who comes in and saying, this is the exact step-by-step, this is what I did, but please qualify it. Please explain that this is not the law, this is just what happened to you, and you need to be aware that it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. Okay, but those of you who are commenting, thank you so much. Please try to link back to the actual government site, the source of your information. But just thanks. That's all I can say. The group is awesome. It's continuing to grow. Remember, I'm shooting for 100,000 by the end of this month. And we're at about 82,000 right now. So share it with everybody that you know. All of you YouTubers, join in. If you want to participate live, I haven't quite figured out how to do it on YouTube. But if you want to join, just go to the Express Entry Law Facebook page and request to join, and I'll add you in. Remember, as always, sponsor is the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself, and I created this for all of you. It is all of my knowledge poured in, and it's not just some written paper on how to do it. I actually log in with a screencast, a video, and show you how to do it. Everything from the very beginning, registering for your MyCIC account, all the way through with sample documents, how the emails come in, how to deal with correspondence, how to deal with uploading additional information if they've asked it, all the way through to paying your fee and getting landed in Canada. So for $97 a month, freak. That's a smoking deal. And hey, I don't care if this is my video, so I can say whatever I want. But anyone who says, "Oh, I'm not going to afford that," is stupid. Because what you get in there, even if you think you have a high level of knowledge already, trust me, there's $97 US worth of value in there. But hey, that's me plugging, and it's all through the Canadian Immigration Institute. And yeah, so thanks for joining me. I will see all of you guys again next week. Hopefully, I believe, on Tuesday at noon, our regular time. If you have any questions, don't forget, send me an email to mholthy@stringham.ca right here, and EE Live Q&A in the subject line. If you're saying to me, hey, Mark, how do I qualify? Here's all of my credentials and my documents. I will not answer that on an EE Live Q&A. I'll send it to Charlene. She will then reach out to you, and then you can become a client of our firm. All right, take care, everyone. Thanks for joining. Mark Holthe signing off. Good luck as you navigate this crazy world that we call Express Entry.